Just sitting at the park here, thinking and reflecting, of course, as usual. What else is new? And I figured I'd start my 13th reflection video, which is going to be about reading and writing. There's a lot to cover with this, but I'm going to just try to keep it as short as possible. No more than 10, 15 minutes. As early as I can remember, like second grade is when it was brought to my attention that, I read at a high level. I've told this story before and in other videos. Those of you who know, you know. Those of you who don't, I'm going to tell the story real quick. It was during a report card conference with my mom and one of my teachers that it was brought to my attention and my mom's that I read at an extremely high level. I was reading higher than the other kids in my class. At the time, of course, I'm a kid, so I wouldn't understand how deep that is and how serious that was. But I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I'm thinking that I did something wrong because the teacher's like, your son reads at such a high level, like, he's just very different, and I don't know how else to say this and all that. She just was so amazed and made it such a big deal, And to me, it's just like, okay, like, I can read, big deal. I didn't really get it. Fast forward that to 5th grade, I started to realize that I can write very well. When I was angry and upset at times or just bored, I would write stories, write stories about myself, make fictional stories about imaginary characters, or just journal my day. And I would write it out. Like, I would write pages and pages. Like, I had journals and diaries, like, for days, and I wish I had them. I wish I didn't lose them. I wish I didn't throw them out. I wish I didn't throw them out. Same thing. Because I wish I could read them. But this is a pattern that was started then that exists even till now in my life, where I threw things away because of low self-esteem, insecurity, and self-doubt. I just went and embraced the things that I could do. Fast forward that to like 8th grade. In 8th grade, I started to get into poetry, like, really starting to learn how to flow and play with my words and metaphors and personifications and all these things like that. If those of you who remember, who've been in school recently or, still learning, you understand poetry, you understand writing. Shoot, if you just listen to a lot of music, you get what it takes to make a good song. And I was starting to really get into that. So much that even my classmates was like, you write poetry, you always write, you ever think about writing raps? You ever think about being a rapper and all that? And I'm like, no. Like, one, because I wasn't even listening to rap music that much at the time, and I hated the radio at that time. 2010, 2011, 9, 12 to me was annoying, and plus everybody in my grade, and of course in middle school, you want to be a rapper, you want to start a rap group, so I didn't want nothing to do with that. But it started to click to me, they write though, poetry is rap, rap is poetry, it's one and the same, depending on how you look at it and how you use it, but hey, that's the foundation to becoming a songwriter, So they were right, and that also inspired me to keep doing my poetry. Move up into high school, I wasn't really writing that much as a freshman and as a sophomore that I can remember. But like in 11th grade, it was really brought to my attention once more how much I'm different. Actually, I lied. I was writing for my school newspaper, and I had won a writing competition, school-wide competition. I had won, which shocked me because I didn't think anybody was going to care, anybody's going to pay attention to my piece, but they did. Ended up having a meeting and a conversation with the principal and all that because of my writing skills, and even then, I didn't accept and realize and understand how good I was with reading and writing and what that meant. And later it turns into speaking skills, It wasn't really till 11th grade, which, if anybody's watched any of my videos, when I ever talk about high school, you'll notice the pattern that, for me in high school, my junior year and my senior years was my best years, as far as discovering myself and really coming to terms with who I am and being fully confident and really expressing myself. I had a teacher in English class in 11th grade that was pushing me so much, like, you're reading a higher level than everybody else, right? I can't say this in front of the class because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but you read at a higher level, and I used to be like, yeah, I know, like, I just don't like to show it off. I don't like to express it because, again, me being super humble, yet also being insecure and not wanting a lot of attention and not being proud of what I can do, I didn't embrace it, which also held me back, as you could imagine, right? She had told me one day, like, if you were reading at a high level in elementary school and you were reading at middle school level in elementary and then reading at a high school level in middle school, you're in high school. I should be reading college level books. I should be prepping for college. She was putting that in my mind and pushing that on me. And I started to realize, like, what, that only makes sense. Like, if you're a step ahead, you should continue to be a step ahead. But I wasn't. And she was making a point about how the teaching system and education is crappy, and that's why kids fall off the side and don't become who they should be and maximize their potential, just like I was, because it's not kept, on top of. We don't make kids realize what they can do. And she gifted me a book still to this day that I hadn't finished. It was a PhD level, like, breaking down religion between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, which was deep for an 11th grader to be reading. It's not that rare, to me, but, in a public school setting, for a kid to be debating with a teacher about politics and religion and racism and abstract concepts, it's a big deal. I know that now that it's a big deal because I realize now in my adulthood, the things that I'm into, a lot of adults don't get into. A lot of kids, I said kids, a lot of people my age aren't really into, like passionately, and I am. And it started back then. But even then, it didn't click to me 100%, because I was so emotional, so insecure, so doubtful. So many things is going on in my life at home, my anger issues. I couldn't really be me. I couldn't really understand my own gifts that I had. It was just terrible. Looking back on it, and I hate it. But such is life, such is my journey. So, anyways. Coming out of high school, 12th grade, senior year, I started to maximize my potential. In 11th grade and 12th grade, I was writing poetry like nothing. Today, I don't really write as much because I have like crazy writer's block. Plus, I don't like to force myself to write. But the thing is now, as some of you may know, when you write and you read well, eventually it can turn into you speaking well. And of course, in my senior year, I was speaking all the time. I was a leader. I was a part of student government. I was standing up in front of assemblies, speaking in front of, sharing my poetry. I went to some poetry nights, and stuff out on my own, outside, after school. Did I do it often? No, because I was still getting crippled by my insecurity and my self-doubts. But I was doing it, and I was really living it and really executing it, and that's a problem that a lot of people have today. And I'm gonna end that on that note when I get there. So today, as a young adult, like I said, I don't write poetry as much now, but I sure read, and I never stop. I listen to audiobooks, I read books on my phone, I read books in hand. I'm always picking up knowledge. I'm always understanding. It's my thing, and it always has been, and I didn't even know it, because I was so blinded by worrying about what other people are doing and worrying about being liked and worrying about what the clothes and the girls and fitting in. I was so worried about all that I didn't even know. I didn't even know, like, who I was and what I was doing. I didn't even know what it meant, but now I do. And it's interesting, how much of my identity, reading and writing and now speaking, how much that a role that plays in my life. So, to the point I was going to make, a lot of people miss reading and writing. A lot of people miss speaking, and I had that gift, and I have that gift, and I use it. Do I use it 100% to the best of my ability? No, because I just be chilling. But I'm working on this next year, throughout 2024 and so on. I'm working on trying to use it more. But I mentor, I give back, I help with these students out here. I'm working in schools, even though I'm coaching wrestling. I speak to kids about reading. I speak to kids about writing. I try to encourage other people my age to read and write and do research and understand things. It never stops. You know, I don't turn it off for nobody, and I don't care. I will not, because I hid it from myself for so long. Plus, I see the benefits of it. And then it's funny that people criticize you and make fun of you and put you in a box when you were a kid, a teenager, and an adult, you know, for doing that. But the whole time in your adulthood, those are the most fundamental things you need. You need to know how to read. You need to know how to do research. You need to know how to count. Yet people clown people for doing it. It's the most funniest and hilarious but shameful thing that people do, you know? It never ends. It never ends, you know, that people do that. But listen, all I know is when I got a piece of paper in front of me, I'm not saying I'll be able to read everything and understand everything at the drop of a hat, but I can sure as hell figure it out, you know, and I'm proud of that, because a lot of people can't read. A lot of people can't talk. A lot of people can't write, you know, and they know it. So when you give a book to somebody, when you talk about education, they want to get turned down. Oh, you don't need college. You don't need this. I don't need that. Blah, 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 blah. Going on. People get mad and get irritated and annoyed in order because they get reminded of something that they can't do. So many adults can't read and write. So many kids can't read and write. You know, as I work in these schools and the kids see me reading the book, they try to clown me and bust on me. Like, anybody who ever worked in education or worked with kids, you know, kids make jokes about you all the time. They know, why you read? You always reading them stupid books. Like, I can't read, F that, nah, da, 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 da. And I was like, well, this is why you failing. This is why you skipping. This is why you walk in the hallways all day, because you can't read. Because you're scared to admit and confront the fact that you can't read. It was the best thing. I'm going to close it out on this. It was the best thing when I realized how much smarter I was than other people, because no longer was I insecure about who I was and what I could do and what I was really interested in. It was the funniest thing. When other dudes, right, and even girls, they want to be in there all loud, talking, running their mouth all the time, trying to be tough, trying to be cool, trying to be funny, but they can't read. So when people try to bust on me and make fun of me, you know, I'd be like, you can't even read that paragraph. You can't even read that page. Go ahead, read that. Or when they start reading and stuttering, I start laughing, because y'all want to clown me for being a weirdo and being quiet and keep it to myself. But y'all can't read. I'm telling you right now. It happens every day. People get in legal situations and they don't win. Half the time, a lot of people lose cases because they can't read. They can't read. They can't speak. They can't write. It's funny how it all adds up. It all adds up. I'm not saying I'm a master. I'm not saying I'm the best or none of that. But I know a lot of people my age struggle with this, because I have conversations with people my age and they get on my nerves because they're not on the same level as me. They're not. And I spend a lot of time around older adults. You know, people with more experience, more maturity, more to teach, more to learn. You know, and I don't got no time to be around people who can't deliver anything for me. And that's just the reality of it. So to close that out, if you're not a reader or a writer, that's okay. Work on it. You know, if for all my young boys who on here, you know, that I coach or whatever, that just getting out of school or still in school, start reading, start writing. If I ain't say this to you already, start reading and start writing. Stop playing. It's not funny that you can't read. Because when you 20, 30, 40, 50, some people hold senior citizens and still can't read and write. It's sad. It's not funny. It's not cute. It's not cool that you want to stand on the block all day, but you can't read a piece of paper. You understand? Social media all day long. Kids and adults all day long, but can't read, can't write, can't speak, can't express themselves. Period. You know, that's all I got to say. And I'm going to end it right there on that note, period. Like, period. Seriously. It's funny. It's sad. But I understand. You know, I've been insecure. I've been doubtful. You know, I know what it's like to have to face your fear and try to understand what you need to do. But the reading and writing and speaking is so necessary. It's so necessary. And it can heal you. It can help you, because it helped me cope and deal with a lot of things, you know. And I used to make a lot of poetry videos. Those of you who've been on here a while, you know, one last thing. You know, I used to make a lot of poetry videos and put them on Facebook, but I deleted them. Why? Because I started going through these bouts and rounds of insecurity and, you know, doubt, and like nobody listening, nobody cared, or somebody probably laughing at this or whatnot. Whole time, I'm showing off how confident I was. I'm showing off a skill. I'm showing off a gift. But this is what happens in our society. This is what happens. People have gifts. They have skills, especially young people. But because society clowns people and makes fun of people who are struggling and they're getting along the way and starting their journey, you know, people shut down and they don't be who they really should be. They can't be who they could be, you know, because that's just the way things are. And it's sad and it sucks. I'm just here to do my part. When I talk to people, when I communicate with people, I always try to spread the word. Read a book. Look this video up. Do some research. Learn. Stop being stubborn. Change. Live. Enough said.